I'm going to talk to you about ways to ensure a healthy business-to-consumer relationship when it comes to indie developers such as yourselves, and just kind of walking through the key points into ensuring that you do have a healthy one. Do have a quick question for everybody. Who here uses social media for their current games? Great. So yeah, that's definitely one of the main keys that we're going to be going through. There are developers out there, they use it because it's available to them, but whether or not they're actually using it efficiently is kind of a gray area. So we're definitely going to be going over that today as well. So yeah, I've actually been in the game industry for just over 10 years. So I've seen the transition from strictly console games where you're making your game for a publisher and it's a big deal that you've got the publisher putting your game out there, to where we are today, where individual game studios are actually putting their own IP out there under their own name and kind of in charge. So it's been really cool, and so everything we go over today too is kind of stems from what I've seen happen over the past 10 years in the game industry. So we're going to quickly go over what it is that has happened here. So I say in the past, it really wasn't that long ago when you think about it. So you've got a development studio. They're making a game specifically for a publisher. Usually the publisher would have gone to them and said, hey, let's make a game. And so from there, the publisher then turns to the manufacturer of, say, a disc in this instance, and then they turn around and put it out there to the audience. This particular instance, the publisher is in charge of the marketing, the community, and the support with the audience. This process I would consider a pretty linear process. You make a game, it goes to the publisher. In this instance, Nintendo handles everything. They're also the manufacturer. And then they put it out to the audience, and the audience is happy. They like their game. In the rare instance, a patch needs to go out right away. The publisher will call upon either the same or a different dev studio and get a quick patch out there. But most likely, it's out there, everything's said and done. Now today, things have changed, I would say, dramatically. You've got your dev studio. They pretty much want to run with their own IP, and they have the opportunity to go ahead and send it out to the distributor all on their own, and then, within a matter, I would say, a few weeks at the most. Apple is, 2 weeks? Matter of weeks, it's out there to the audience. And in this instance, we've pretty much cut out the middleman. The dev studio is now in charge of all the marketing, the community, and all of the support. This process is considered more of a cyclical process. You've got your games, they get pushed to the distributor, which get pushed to the audience, and hopefully they're still all excited, this is a great game, but it doesn't end there. We are living in an age now where your audience can say, hey, this is cool, but it would be even cooler if there was this, or hey, you know what, we don't really like this thing over here. They're actually having the opportunity to speak directly to you about what it is that they like, don't like, and it gives you a chance to then, in turn, keep the cycle going, create another version of your game or updates or anything like that. So there are a few key points that we're going to go over next. Now that we're in the cyclical process, we definitely want to keep it going. So when it comes to actually taking your audience, definitely want to think about some of the things that make a relationship with them good. So we're going to go over quickly just a few key points that will apply to any relationship. The first one is good communication. So what is the point of a relationship when you don't communicate well with each other? You're not going to know what your wants and what your needs are when it comes to the other person in your relationship. The next point is listening. Now you can question whether or not listening is the same as communicating. I'm going to say it's not. Listening is far more than just hearing what the other person is saying. Listening is actually understanding. I have a I have a reference from the show Frasier, which it always made me laugh. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that show, but basically it's a call-in psychiatrist, and someone calls in to him saying, "I can't sleep. I'm having a huge problem with insomnia," and he responds by saying, "Just sleep on it." Well, obviously, he wasn't listening if the core issue is that this person can't sleep, and he's recommending that they go ahead and sleep on it. The next point is resolving conflicts at the right time. So anyone who's been in any kind of relationship, whether it's with a partner, with a friend, or a sibling, knows that there's always going to be conflicts when it comes to relationships. And that's okay. Resolving the conflict itself is what makes a relationship stronger. Resolving at the right time, however, is also key. You know, when you get mad at somebody, the emotions are flying, and things kind of can be unsettled, but allowing enough time to kind of let those strong emotions pass ensures you an adult resolution to your conflict. And lastly, one of the most important, I believe, is actually allowing for growth and change. I have another question for everybody out here. How many of you actually are friends with the people that you were friends with back in middle school, high school, secondary school? A few of you. A few of you are. I am. And it's definitely an interesting thing when you look back and see that you've actually all changed in so many ways. So definitely take a look at those friendships that you still have today and think about what has changed and what stayed the same and how you've actually been able to maintain that friendship for so many years. So we've basically just run over some key points into a healthy relationship in life. So if those are the points that can actually apply to love and life, why can't they also apply when it comes to your business-to-consumer relationship, your relationship with your audience? Well, the good news is that they can. And those are some of the things that we're actually going to go over next here. Is actually these points and using the tools that we have available today to maintain those relationships. So the first step is actually building your relationship. So everyone here pretty much raised their hand when I asked if you use social media to run business and to run your game. So the first step in actually building your B2C relationship is creating your social media sites and websites. So everyone's there. That's great. So from here, once you've established those, and you can establish those pretty much, I would say, before game launches. There's companies out there that like to do it way beforehand. They use it to hype the game into market. But as long as you're ready to go for that initial launch of your game, then you're golden. Another thing you're going to want to do to get going is to start watching the reviews as they come in. So it's kind of, I would say, a little more rare to see stuff come in as soon as that game's out, especially if you haven't focused on marketing beforehand. But it's something that we'll get into in the next couple of slides here, what to do with the data, but start getting a sense of like what your audience actually is thinking about your game, and you can start to understand what kind of reports and stuff you want to put together. The next step here is setting up a support channel. And when I say support channel, it could be a variety of things. The most common you would see is probably the support email system. So get that set up. I definitely recommend when you've got your support email including as much information as you can from the server itself. And I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. So basically, when a person hits the support button to let you know that they're having an issue with your game, make sure to include what device they're using, what OS they're using, their player ID, so you know specifically who it is that you're actually hearing from. This kind of helps alleviate the back and forth that might need to happen when you're trying to debug. It definitely makes it a lot easier when you already have that information. And then the next is something that I definitely hold true is having a dedicated community manager. Now, I know for a smaller development group, it's not necessarily within your means to actually hire someone specifically or even have someone readily there. So if you can even put a team together and kind of share the responsibilities, but just making sure that you actually have dedicated community management. It pretty much is a full-time job, if not a full-time job plus some. Okay, so some of the social medias that are out there, and I, of course, just listed some of the most popular that I see. I know there's so many out there, but there's a few out here that are definitely really good for creating an open dialogue and two-way communication. Facebook, Twitter, a website, which is great because, I mean, you're holding the code to that. You can dump all the Facebook and Twitter APIs and stuff in there. And then a blog, and you're basically creating a way for you and your audience to actually communicate to one another and quickly, which is the beauty of where we're at with technology. So again, there are plenty of social medias out there. There's a few that I really wouldn't recommend to use when it comes to actually creating the relationship with your audience. Examples: YouTube, Instagram, Vine, and Snapchat. While they're great for getting your name out there and getting your game out there and pretty much marketing, they're not really good for two-way communication. It's basically just taking the audience's input in and then stashing it away and using it somewhere else. So along with social media, there's also the actual distribution channels that you're using to upload your game that work wonders for two-way communication. We've got the App Store, Google Play, Facebook. Again, there's other distribution groups out there. These are most certainly the most common. By using these, you're allowing the user to actually come to you that way. What's great is the Google Play and Facebook both allow you to actually respond back to the users. So they'll come and write a review, and you can actually respond right away, thanking them for their input. There's plenty of things we're going to go over here in just a little bit. Plenty of things that you can say for responding to their feedback. I definitely wanted to include this. So this is just a quick little screenshot of Google Play, and actually how you can respond directly to the audience. The first time I saw this, I thought it was so cool, and I wanted to go in, and I think I did. Went in and found everyone that I needed to respond to, and had the team be like, we need to do this, and put a big initiative in place. It's definitely really important to not only focus on the reviews that aren't so good and some of the negative feedback. Focus on the good feedback. Thank people for taking the time to review and to review you well. It definitely goes a long way. It's like receiving an unexpected compliment from somebody. It makes you feel good, and you definitely remember it later on. So we're just going to kind of run through once more what are some of the good channels that are out there for interacting with the audience. Game reviews, like we just kind of went over, a good way for your audience to come directly to you and quickly, and you also have the opportunity to respond to them there. Forums. Now, forums are a little bit bigger of a thing. For those who actually run forums, you understand there's definitely a lot of threads being created, some of them junk, some of them very applicable to what you're doing. But you can also communicate directly to people, but you also have ways to do group sessions within that. So that's pretty cool too. And then social feeds, that's also just very quick things that you can not only implement into your website, but just for quick updates, let people know that if they do have something they need to do or wanted you to do, that you can actually get to it quickly. Email we went over, just creating up that support channel, and then the website. It's great because, again, you're in control of it, and everything can kind of roll into your page. So now that you've built your B2C relationship, you've got to maintain your B2C relationship. The first thing you'll want to do, of course, is to listen to your audience. And again, that's not just hearing what they have to say, but it's actually understanding what it is that they're saying. You'll want to generate feedback reports for your next version and so on. And I say report in a matter of, I like data and numbers, but really what it is just taking some of the keywords from your audience and assembling an extension of whatever development roadmap you have. There are great tools out there. I think the one I like to fall back on is Sensor Tower. They actually pull your reviews for you and pull specific keywords that you're looking for, so you have it right there in front of you, what it is that you want to include in your next revision. Talk to your audience. Keep them informed of what's going on. If there's something, there's an issue with your game, let them know that you're on it, and make sure that you're open with them as much as they're going to be open with you. Fix issues as soon as possible. Now it kind of goes along with, fixing issues as soon as possible. It basically, when there's an issue at hand, you'll want to kind of evaluate the importance of it. If it's a crash, you obviously want to take care of it right away, but if it has something to do with the color green looking purple, it can wait. Not as big of an issue, but definitely make sure you include that in your roadmap as well. And lastly, don't give up. There's a lot of things that your audience wants you to do that you just really aren't equipped to do. You really shouldn't be doing in terms of business practice. Ads is a great example. No audience likes to see ads, but unfortunately, when it comes down to the bottom line, we're in it to monetize on our audience. So if they're not, buying credits, then we've got to show them ads, and that's just something that you're going to have to just, understand that they're going to say it to you, but it's okay to not necessarily listen to them. So we'll just quickly here run through some of the benefits to having a B2C relationship. It increases the longevity of the game. I still play Words with Friends. That's one of those games that's been out there forever. Building a loyal audience and community. Nothing says marketing better than loyal customers. They'll definitely talk about you when you're there for them. Makes you and your dev team smarter and stronger. And what I mean by this is that you have lots of ups and downs when you're actually dealing with an actual B2C relationship. And there's a lot of emotion that flies with the negativity and the positivity that comes around. So a team that can actually get through days like that, it definitely just makes you stronger as a unit. And it creates a steady platform for new games. Once you've kind of narrowed down what it is that you're building and what you've built for your audience, you can easily just put other games on top of that platform, and you've kind of already done some of that dirty work. And then a couple of the reasons to not really like your B2C relationship. It's definitely extra work. I mean, everything we just went over just a little bit ago says that there is a lot more work to be done, but it's definitely more. You definitely want that dedicated person. So if you get that dedicated person or team, it's going to be withstandable. Rude comments. We all have seen them. I'm sure there are people out there who just want to be mean. I don't think I have that much time left to kind of go over specifics, but we can certainly do that afterwards. There are ways to kind of go around dealing with the rude comments and the negative feedback that is just too obnoxious. And of course, additional stress comes with the extra work. A lot of work usually equals a lot of stress. But again, you get through that, and you've got an amazing game, and it's all worth it. So in quick summary, healthy B2C relationship, the same applies to any relationship in life. Good communication, listening, resolving conflicts at the right time, and allowing for growth and change. I believe we have a few minutes for some questions.
So you mentioned about negative feedback, that it's better to just focus on the positive feedback and not really reply to the negative comments. I was thinking if you could expand on that, because personally on our team, we kind of reply to them and try to find out like why they left negative feedback, and like try to get feedback on how we can make their experience better. Yeah.
No, that's a great question. And unfortunately, my time, I kind of ran out of it. But that was exactly what I was going to point on. Absolutely pay attention to your negative feedback. There are definitely ways that you don't want to ignore it, because you hit delete, that means you're purposely ignoring them. You hear them and you're like, I don't want to deal with you. You thank them for the comments, and always, always, always offer a second channel for them to reach you, whether it is a support email, visit our website, let them know that you're there and you want to listen. There are times where people don't even care. Like I said, they just want to be rude. They're having a bad day and they're just going to, be that way. But a lot of times they'll respond to you. And if you get the people who actually do want to help you resolve issues, then that's something you want to reward them for, I think. You give them in-game credits or whatever it is you have, send them a physical gift card. There are things like that definitely you want to pay attention to those negative comments.
Yeah, and just to follow up regarding like those rude comments that you get, like at what point do you think that you should just like sort of drop off, like they're being really rude and you kind of think, oh, maybe this is not really worth it? You think that there's a certain point that you just give up on the user, or do you always just keep trying?
No, you definitely don't want to spend a lot of effort, because there are a lot of, for every one rude comment, you're going to have the handful of ones that are actually positive. I would say don't spend your effort. Maybe do once, like I said, thank them and offer them a second channel of reaching out to you. If they're not willing to take that up, it's not really worth your time to follow up after that. You've done pretty much everything that you should at that point.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a game launch just goes badly. You put the game out there and you immediately kind of get inundated with some bad reviews, and the team tends to take a morale hit from that. How do you shield your team, and how do you get them to understand that that's just part of the cycle?
That's a good question. So in terms of, you really can't shield your team. This is public information. There are people who, even if you don't encourage them to look at it while they're together in the office, they're going to go home and see this. The one thing I would say is encourage them to not take it personally. Make sure that they're aware that there are people that are out there. I can't really share the term that I call this group of people. It's not safe for work, but there are people out there who just are out there to be negative. Just ensure the team that not only praise the work they've done, because regardless of how the game turned out, a lot of work went into it, and they should be very proud of what they've done. But just make sure that they know not to take any comments seriously. It's at the end of the day, it's a job they've done, things that they're passionate about. It's not to be taken directly at heart. And know that as a developer, you have a plan for your next revision, for any updates, and that you ultimately have a plan to rise above that as a team.
Thank you.
Okay, well, my email is up here. If you have any further questions or any clarification or just any of your own stories with dealing with your B2C relationship, feel free to let me know. I'd love to hear it.